I'm absolutely very excited about this morning. We've talked about it for some time, but what we are going to be able to share in this morning is the work of our VIM team, particularly the VIM team, excuse me, who went to Crisfield and are planning to go back to Crisfield. And so I pray that we listen to Gene, we listen to the ministry of the hearts of these people so that we might catch the Spirit and that we recognize and own something. Part of our giving ourselves, when we give our tithes and our offerings, makes it possible that we can travel like that and make an actual physical as well as spiritual difference in the lives of people. That's what Gravel Hill is doing. And so, he does not need an introduction, does he? But my good friend, Gene Simmers.
Thank you. Actually, I want to thank Pastor Smith for giving us this opportunity. We've been looking forward to it, and we have a few things we'd like to cover with you today. Most importantly, you want to hear from the people that actually were at Crisfield and what types of missions we're doing. I've been here a long time, there's no doubt about that. And we've always been known as the friendly church on the hill. And it's true, it still is, and always will be. But a couple of years ago, I don't know if it was a charge conference or somewhere, I made the comment, wouldn't it be neat if we were known as the Mission Church of Palmyra or the Mission Church on the Hill? Give us a new name, too, to go along with that friendly church on the hill. And when you know it, about a month ago, I was in town on a Saturday morning with a group of guys, and one of the gentlemen turned to me and said, "You go to Gravel Hill, right?" I said, "Yeah." He says, "Well, you guys do a lot of mission work, I'm hearing, right?" And then I thought, wow, you know what? It's starting to happen. The big ship is starting to turn, and people are starting to realize that we do mission work here at Gravel Hill, and we're very proud of it. I think Pastor's newsletter reflected a lot of that of what I was going to say. You have Tony's group, the Isaiah group. You have Katie Landis doing a magnificent job with the youth. You also have, what's neat, I think, are individuals who will just all of a sudden put an email out there and say, "Hey, I know a family that needs help, or I have some homeless that need help. Can anyone help us out?" And all of a sudden, you see everyone saying, "Yeah, we'll go with you. We'll do this." But today, I'm here to talk to you about our little group called Partners in Missions. It's been around a long time. I've had the opportunity to be with them for the last 2.5 years, I guess it is, and we decided we wanted to go in a little different direction and start some mission work of our own. And what we've done is we've actually gone out and tried to find some small jobs around the community to do, and we've done quite well. We worked in yard work for some ladies that couldn't handle it anymore in Palmyra. We've been to Steelton. We've done some yard work there. And that was a young lady in her 20s, I believe, late 20s, who was a widow and happened to come to our community day and signed up at our table. And that's a plug for community day, folks, because it does work. We also got some people over in Enola across the river. We did some painting there for them. We've gone to the Lebanon Rescue Mission, served Sunday dinners to the homeless, and gathered equipment for them. And by the way, I'm looking for someone that would be a contact at the Lebanon Rescue Mission, so if anybody's interested at the end of this, let me know sometime. We've even gone down to Lynn Hackman's church in Lebanon, and her trustees, when I talked to her, she was telling about her trustees. They're all 80 and over, I guess, and a little difficult for them to do the type of work that we did. But we helped them out one Saturday morning in hopes that they can make a decision on what to do with some property they have there too. One thanks I want to give out is to John Stewart. John has taken the reins and he is our contact with Habitat for Humanity. And we've actually been on 3 or 4 trips with Habitat for Humanity in the Lebanon area. And we are setting up a schedule with them where we will be going to Habitat for Humanity probably at least every quarter. And all you need to do is look in the bulletin, because we'll put it out there. Sometimes we have short notice, and we have to do it by email, but I'll explain how you can take care of that a little bit later, too. We have a committee, about 16 people. We meet every second Tuesday of the month. We review requests that are made to us and decide what mission type work that we're going to do. I think, though, that the big one in our category is our mission trip away from the Pennsylvania area here in the local area. Even though we do a lot here, we like to throw one big one in there. And so far it's been Chrisfield, Maryland. We've gone there the last 2 years. We took 15 people the first year. We took 20 people last year. And we're going back again next year, and we're going to be taking all 30 people. There's only 30 bunks in the church that we sleep in, and we're going to take them all because we feel we can get that. There's no doubt about it. I'd like to think that we're based on Scripture. In fact, I kind of picked one out on my own that I always did like. Every time I read it, it just makes sense to me, and I'd like to read it to you here today. It's James 1, verses 22 through 25. And listen closely to the words in this. Do not merely listen to the word and so deceive yourself. Do what it says. Do what it says. Anyone who listens to the word but does not do what it says is like a man who looks at his face in a mirror, and after looking at himself goes away and immediately forgets what he looks like. But the man who looks intently into the perfect law and gives freedom and continues to do this, not forgetting what he has heard, but doing it, he will be blessed in what he does. That's missions, I think. I read a book by Parker, Alex Parker, I believe it is, and it's called Make Poverty Personal. I've had it probably 8 to 10 years, and I often pull it off the shelf and just look at the highlights I have in there. And the one statement that gets me in there a lot of times is that he says, do you realize there are 2,000 verses in the Bible that reflect directly on the poor and the oppressed people of the world? 2,000 verses. He said, what would your Bible look like if you cut those 2,000 verses out? I mean, that to me is amazing. I think we're being told something here, and we need to listen, and we need to do it like it said. Like any shopping center has an anchor store, I think we as partners in missions have our anchor store, and that's our trip to Chrisfield. We thought about going for a week somewhere, and we thought about 2 weeks, and then we thought, gosh, you know what, people have to take off work, and that's always a problem. So we looked at Wednesday through Saturday, where we could at least drive, a 5-hour drive, and Chrisfield fit the perfect spot. And VIM is there constantly since Hurricane Sandy. There's still a mess down there, as you probably will hear in some of the testimonies today. And that's why we've picked this area, and that's why I think it's been so successful. We can please a lot of people because of work and so forth. What I'd like to do right now is, if we can, show a video of Chrisfield, the last one when we were down there, and then we'll hear some testimonies from some of the people. So like we said in our old days, let her flicker. It was a great few days down there, and I hope you're going to hear a little bit more here shortly. Before I introduce our first speaker, I'd like to read to you another piece of scripture from Matthew 25, verse 40. The king will reply, I tell you the truth. Whatever you did for one of the least of my brothers and mine, you have did for me. Jared Culp went with us to Chrisfield, and I'd like Jared if he could come forward and give his testimony. Jared has been down to Chrisfield twice. He is a hardworking young man, and I don't say that just because he's my nephew. I love him dearly. But in the last 2-3 years, I've seen Jared grow in his faith. I really have. And I think that's one of the outcomes of the ministry of missions. In fact, I'd like to read you a few more of them, and as these people speak, I want you to hear it in their voices and pick them out. No matter how big or small a mission trip is, they will help you appreciate what God has blessed you with, grows you in faith, builds a deeper relationship with members of your own church, and connects you to God. I truly believe in those, and that came from Baker's book also, by the way. And I think you're going to hear that in the testimonies you're about to hear. So, here's Jared.
That scripture from Matthew is actually from one of Jesus' parables, I believe, the sheep and the goats. And that's the one where he says that I was hungry and you fed me, I had no clothes and you clothed me, I was in prison and you visited me. It's about helping people. And I remember a couple of years ago, I was thinking, it'd be nice if I could start maybe thinking about others more than thinking about myself. So this trip to Chrisfield came along, and I thought, here's a good opportunity to do that. And I wasn't as sure what I was expecting from it. I didn't have a whole lot of skills. I knew I could do some good manual labor, and I could work hard. And I did, and we went down there, and the work's hard. You come back, you're tired, you're sweaty, you're dirty, and you feel good about the work. But I also learned that there's more than just the manual labor of it. When you come back, you also have an opportunity to fellowship with the others that you're with. And you come back, you eat, you talk about your day, you talk about your experiences and what you went through. And you learn that, how do I say this? That not only are you helping others, but you're also being helped by other people, the people that you're with. Because we start talking about not only our day, but our struggles in life, and it's kind of a nice little discipleship. And then we also talk about the people we met and experienced throughout the day that we helped and worked for, the people. There's also a communication with the people that you're also helping. And you'd be amazed by the faith that these people have, because they don't have anything. It's a poor community. They don't have anything. They have water running through their ceilings. They have black, stinky water coming out of their faucets. But you talk with them, and they all say, it's all good. God's good. They say they prayed about someday someone coming and helping them. And this one lady said that she's prayed and prayed that someday somebody would come and help her, and she called many people and she's been turned down. And finally on her birthday in March, she was approved by the UMCOR United Methodist Division, and she said, I was never really familiar with the United Methodist Church before, but I am now. So we're not only going out and helping these people, we're also being disciples too. And that's what Jesus expects us to be disciples. And that passage actually should have an extra spot in it where Jesus said, I needed guidance and you discipled to me. And that's what we're out there. So if you ever think about doing missions work or going down to Chrisfield, expect more than just there's good hard work. There's also a nice devotional time with the people you're with. And there's also that discipleship you actually have a chance to do with the people you're out there helping. So, thanks.
Deuteronomy 15, 7 through 8. You didn't know I was going to read all 2,000 verses, did you? If there is a poor man among you and your brothers in any of the towns of the land that the Lord your God is giving you, do not be hard-hearted or tight-fisted toward your poor brother. Rather, be open-handed and freely lend him whatever he needs. Joni's next to speak to us, and I'm sure she doesn't need any introduction either. Joni, she's been to Puerto Rico, she's been to Chrisfield, and I'm just so impressed by her. She's my spiritual leader. I don't think she realizes what she did on Friday evening when we were down in Chrisfield. I think she made the statement that went something like this: where did we see Christ this week? And people opened up. And I just think that is amazing. And I'm just so pleased to know her and have her with on the trip. And she worked hard also, by the way, like we all did. And right now I'd like to know if Joni would come forward.
Your words are very kind, Jean. Last year, they were looking for volunteers to go to Chrisfield, and I kind of hee-hawed around it and took my time asking my nurse manager for time off, and eventually got back to Jean to say, okay, sign me up, I'm going to go to Chrisfield. And he said, sorry, Joni, we're all booked. Okay, great, good. So this year, when they were looking for people to go to Chrisfield, I said to Jean, sign me up. Hopefully by the grace of God, they can deal without me at work for a few days. And it worked out just fine. When we had our first meeting together as a group in the library, I saw people older than me and people younger than me, people I knew and people I was going to get to know. And they handed out paperwork, and they wanted you to put 1, if you're independent, and 2, if you need a little assistance with some of the skills that we would be doing down in Chrisfield. So I looked and I saw plumbing, electrical, roofing, flooring, concrete, and I thought to myself, what in the world did I think I was going to be doing? So I saw at the bottom of the list, I saw painting, and I'm like, yay, I can do that. And I did put down on my paper that I'm certified in CPR. Thought that might be helpful. And I said to Dixie, do you folks have like a designated devotion time? And she said, yes. I'm like, great, sign me up. Although that never happened, I was prepared anyway. And Dave Miller was sitting next to me, and he said to me, I said, is this your first missions trip? And he said, yes. And I said, great. He's like, I don't know what they're gonna have me do because I'm a retired accountant. I'm like, don't worry about it. There's always something for everybody to do. So it's kind of nice going to Chrisfield because you think Maryland is just the next state over. But it was a 5-hour drive. It was all the way down on the southeast corner of Maryland. And when we got to our work site, we were so excited. We were just going to look to see what we were going to be dealing with. And when we got there, we started to work. And it's funny because this house or this trailer was just stripped down to the metal from the group that was there before us. And this trailer was really dilapidated, and somebody's living in there. Our job was to put a new floor in, and that wood on that floor was so soft, and then there was some holes that you could actually see through it. And it was an area that was very, what my sister and I would say, the boondocks. It's just a very depressed area. So while at Chrisfield, I learned some new skills. Reverend Smith showed me how to notch out something in some wood. I'm like, I can do that. And Jay Jarrell showed me how to use some kind of saw I've never even laid eyes on before. And it was good, and perhaps these are stepping stones for the next trip. My challenge to you is, if you feel that stirring in your heart, if you think that you might want to go on a missions trip, just step out of your comfort zone and do it. You will be blessed. The biggest tool that we could take down, because we were told to take tools down, I took a paintbrush, yay, and a hammer, but the biggest tool we could take down is our love for God and our servanthood. That's what we're called to do the work for those people who need the help and can't do it for themselves. So if you feel that stirring, and I know somebody in here already is feeling that stirring, get back in there and sign up. Don't wait, don't hesitate, just do it, and you will be blessed immensely. Thank you.
Terry Royer was definitely our spark plug. What a hard-working young lady she is. Every time an email goes out, I happen to notice whether it's from Tony's group or our group or Annie's group, she's one of the first ones that responds, I'll help. And it was a pleasure seeing her down there also and the hard work that she gives. And I'd like to ask Terry if she could come forward and have a few words now too.
Good morning. Many of you don't know me, and I don't know you because I don't come to this service. But I will say that I got to meet some phenomenal individuals that do attend this service, and that was a very, very big high point of this whole trip. When Jerry Faribault had first initially asked me if I wanted to go on this mission trip, my first thought was, I don't have time for that. And then I thought about it, and then I prayed about it, and I felt a nudge, and I tried to ignore it, but it kept on pushing. So I finally said, okay, I have 3 jobs. I had to take off all that. I have a grandson, I have a daughter, we all have a life. It was the best thing I ever could have done. I had expectations because I'd never been there. I didn't know what was going to happen. I thought it was going to be deluxe 5-star living accommodations, world-class cuisine, clean work environment, private bathrooms. I couldn't have been more wrong. The sleeping arrangements, they allowed you to get to know your fellow worshipers a little bit too well. It was cold weather down there, which I wasn't expecting. It was buggy. It was wet. We got down and dirty. Jared didn't tell you, he climbed underneath the porch that had sank about 2 feet on somebody's house. Her back part of her house was like this. And he got down there and he jacked up that house along with Kenny Bishop in the dirt, in the mud with the bugs, the rodents, the snakes. He talk about getting down and dirty. He did it. It was okay. There was a lot going on. We didn't have all those living accommodations, 5-star, that I was expecting, but we did have world-class cuisine because we did have our own private chef who happens to be the chef at Hershey, and that was good. We did not go without good food, that's for sure. If it sounds like I'm trying to talk you out of this, you couldn't be more wrong. This trip will touch you in so many ways that you never even could have imagined. There were a lot of unexpected benefits, like getting to know the people like Joni and Jay Jarrell, who lent me a sweatshirt because it was so cold down there. I wasn't prepared for that, and he lent me one of his sweatshirts. It was painted and ripped and torn, but it was warm. When I washed it and tried to give it back to him, he didn't want it. I don't know why, but what he doesn't know is I kept that sweatshirt. And every time I see that, it reminds me of the trip, it reminds me of Jay, it reminds me of all the wonderful people we touched. So thank you, Jay. We did a lot of hard work. You saw some of the pictures. There were people whose lives touched me forever. Doreen is the one that Jared had mentioned, who it was her birthday, and she got the phone call that we were going to be able to come down and help her. She didn't even have running black water. She didn't have any water. She didn't have toilet water. She had to go across the street to the church to use the toilet, to bathe, to wash up at the sink. We weren't even there to fix that. She didn't even have that on her list. That wasn't her main concern. That was nothing compared to the other work that had to be done in her house. She always, always had a smile on her face. And that woman was just phenomenal, and I got goosebumps just talking about her. That's what this trip will do for you. You will do so much for these people, but these people are going to do so much for you, and you won't know it until you experience it. We had some fun. We got to play some games. We made a ping pong table. We improvised with a piece of old plywood, and we used tennis rackets for the rackets. It was fun. We played games where we laughed so hard that our tears were falling. I got to watch Doug Smith work. Hard. I know he talks about being on a farm, but we never really see that side of him. He's a hard worker. I also got to teach him how to load a nail gun because he didn't know how. And yes, he was a little bit embarrassed that it was a woman that had to teach him. And even more so, that it was a blonde woman. But it was great. It was a lot of fun. The reminder of all this is that we're all together. We're to thank God for all of our blessings because I don't care how bad you have it, you are truly, truly blessed. And you'll know that when you see how little these other people have and they feel blessed. Doesn't matter your skill level. Joni said, it doesn't matter. You can pull nails, you can carry plywood from this house and put it in this pile to dispose of it. If you're not handy in any of those other ways, ask Dave. We learned a lot. We worked hard together. When we came back, I know that we transferred lives, and we transformed our own as well. And when we got back, Pastor Smith asked me about a week later and asked what I thought about the trip. This is out of my character. I said, I am on fire. I'm on fire for God. Those words don't come out of my mouth. I mean, I love God. I believe in God. I like to help. But for me to come out and say, I am on fire. And I couldn't wait for the next mission trip, which I went on with the kids with the youth mission trip then in June. And I cannot wait for Chrisfield. My mother used to have a saying, what are you waiting for? A personal invitation? So if any of you are questioning this is your personal invitation. Let's fill those 30 spots. Let's fill them before the next church service. So if you feel a nudge, if you feel a push, just sign up. We guarantee we can help you. You can help us. Just get out and do it. Thank you.
It grows your faith, and that it does. Our next speaker needs no introduction either. He's Mr. Missions in this church. Jim Fouts has probably been on more mission trips than anybody in Gravel Hill, I would imagine, or probably any combination of everybody that's been in Gravel Hill. He goes to Puerto Rico every year. He's been to Chrisfield. He knows the mission work. It has grown him in his faith, I think. I'm going to speak for him because I noticed it. And I just think it's a wonderful opportunity for him to say a few words to you today about his love for missions and what he gets from it.
Okay. Sure. Thanks. Being fourth on the docket, I figured that you all would have a really good flavor for Chrisfield and what we experienced there. I've been there 3 times, but the last trip I missed because of my mother's failing health, and I thought I should stay home. While I'm thinking of it, if you remember the picture of the mobile home that they discussed and they were working on, and they had framed out the roof so nicely, I went down later with another team and put a steel roof on that trailer. So it's all buttoned up and nice and neat now. Anyway, I thought I would give you a little flavor of how God guided my hand, my journey in mission work. Sometime after I retired, I took an early retirement from Hershey Foods in 2002. Jean came home from I think it was a women's Bible study class, and said that Mrs. Smith had mentioned a trip to Puerto Rico as a mission trip to Puerto Rico with the Volunteers in Mission. This is a man that attended church on Easter and Christmas. That was me. What can I say? Someone said, don't reject that out of hand. Think about that. And I did. And I started attending the organizational meetings, and shortly thereafter I was in Puerto Rico working with a wonderful group of people I learned how to pray earnestly and devoutly in front of other people. I came back from that mission trip after having worked hard and meeting many wonderful people, became a member of Gravel Hill Church and a regular attendee. So that took me on my mission, but a little bit of not only my devotional, spiritual development, but personally, I have one really good experience. When you signed up that first time, there's all kinds of forms to fill out when you go on a mission trip. And one of them was that you will not partake of tobacco or alcohol while you're on the mission. Whoa, the alcohol, no problem, because that was easy. The tobacco part, I was an addict at that point. I was addicted to nicotine. I went on the trip. By the time we got to Puerto Rico, that long plane ride, I was already feeling it. The next morning, it was really bad. And I was assigned to a dear old friend named Henry Steckbeck, who was a fencing expert at Lebanon Building Supply. I'm going to work with Henry to do fencing. So the first morning, I go down to the swimming pool at this United Methodist Church camp in Puerto Rico, working with Jonathan Smith and Fletcher Crimbring, both from Gravel Hill. And Henry comes down, and he sits down at the picnic bench, and we're gathered around for instructions, and Henry isn't ready for that yet. He reaches into his pocket and pulls out a cigar and lights it up. Well, that made for a long day for me. The next day, it wasn't so bad. The next week, it was pretty good. 12 years later, it's all good, no more. So, anyway, I will cut this short, Doug. Everything you've heard about Chrisfield, I've been there 3 times, and I am planning to go again this year with 2 teams. I'm also a member of a team from Warrensburg and Schuylkill County that was introduced to me by some friends that I met in Puerto Rico, and I'll introduce them. They will be here for the 3rd service. Team Warrensburg has I've gone to them, Mississippi and North Carolina and Chrisfield. Tremendous organization, and also, like our team, full of people that are super skilled. And what I'm trying to point out to you is, I'm not. But if you can pick up shingles or scraps of wood or cook a meal or do dishes, there's a place for you on the mission team. You don't have to be an expert at all those building skills. There's something for you to do, and believe me, you will get more out of it than all those people that you meet and work for in the communities where you are sent. You meet a lot of diverse groups of people on mission trips, people that you will never see in our little community, whether it be Puerto Ricans or our people of other faiths and colors. Where we're sent, believe me, you'll get more out of it than you put into it. Thank you.
There's a note in my NIV Bible below one of the scriptures, and I just want to read that to you. And I've written this down, and I look at it every so often. We have no excuse to neglect those who have deep needs. Jesus demands our personal involvement. So if you'd like to go to Chrisfield, sign up and live the faith. If you'd like to help and go to Alaska, there is actually a meeting tonight at 6:30 in the Heritage Room, and we're going to be talking about making a trip to Alaska to work on a camp that serves youth and adults and get them to know Christ. If you want to go to Puerto Rico or have questions of it, see Jim Fouts. If you'd like to work local missions right around here, just give me your email address and name, or give it to the office and tell them you want on the missions list, and we'll just send out every time there's something available. It'll go out to you, and you can respond, or you can let that one go if you're busy. The question is now really is, are you ready? Thank you.
We really must move along. We have 2 more services, and so I'm going to move right to the benediction. I would ask you all to stand with me today. I do want to say this. We got to be careful what we're proud of, but I am proud of a number of things, and I hope it's in line with our faith. I'm so proud of Jared. I have watched him grow in his faith. Amazing man. He's given testimony a couple times on what it means. I'm so proud of Jim as well, and he told you his story, and I've watched that, and he has become an amazing, effective part of the ministry of the church. I'm so proud of Gene, which really caught a sense of the Spirit and got this movement. He won't take credit for that, and that's because that's a man of God, I think, who was very humble. And I'm so proud of every person who went down there. I really am, especially with Reverend B's daughter right here. You all know that, right? You all know that, right? This is the most mute service I think I ever have. You all know that, right? She actually, I think, had the worst job there, and she did it with a smile. She sat on the floor and cut carpet along the plate, did a lot of it. I tell you what, Jay is an amazing person. He taught her, she didn't say this, he taught her to use the air gun too. She was banging away with that down there. Amazing thing, and to be with people who are living the message. Just an incredible, amazing thing. And so I hope that you know that you are a part of it when you share your tithes and offerings, but I'm going to ask you not to stop there. I'm going to ask you to challenge yourself and to be a part of, put your body on the front line right there. And it makes a difference. You have heard people who said it changed their lives. It changed their lives in Jesus Christ. May you go with that God who can and does transform lives right here in Gravel Hill. Name God the Father and the Son and the Holy Spirit. Amen.